Hello Kitty, me gusta mi titties, me gusta mi booty. Hoy me tomo selfie con filtro Hello Kitty.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dangerous Games Podcast. I am Courtney with Reckless Cards, and I'm here with my beautiful, stunning, busy, hardworking
So are you.
boss babe, best woman, best mother, best wife, best friend that I know.
I'll take the last one.
The original Mrs. Breaker, Mrs. Squirts Cards, Sarah. How you doing, Mama?
I'm good. How are you, girl?
I'm good. I'm good. A little
Yeah.
tired. It's been busy since the National. It's been crazy busy. And I know you
I hear
have been. You were busy at the National. I barely saw you. You were like ships passing in the wind.
Yeah, like multiple times. I feel like I saw you and I felt your presence like within at least 5 feet. But my goodness, that national was definitely a really interesting layout, to say the
Yeah.
least. And then, like I've said before, I think I only saw 1/10 of it. So I
I
don't even.
it was laid out in a way that wasn't very conducive to be able to find things that you were looking for. That
Mhm.
seems to be like beyond the air conditioning. That seems to be like the biggest complaint that I've been hearing is just how hard it was to find things, how the layout was kind of like it could have been better. It was the biggest national that I personally have ever been to, um,
And the biggest one to
ever.
date.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
So
it's like you go around a wall and it's like, "Oh, there's more tables over here? Who are these people?" Like, you just never knew what you found behind the next door.
it was like being in Alice in Wonderland, and we were Alice, and we were
Yes.
constantly falling down the rabbit hole every single minute of
And
every
the
single.
same rabbit hole because I didn't get to go anywhere else. I just walked the same path 20 times.
There was one point that you walked into the room that I was in, and I saw you across the
I
room,
heard.
and then somebody else talked to me, and I turned and I looked, and by the time I looked back, you were gone. I'm like, "She
I
disappeared."
came back and Manny was like, did you not find Courtney?" And I was like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "Courtney's looking for you." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "You were literally standing right here. You walked out
I
and
described your
came."
outfit to you. I'm like, "I saw you," and then
I
I
know.
described exactly what you were wearing, and then you were gone. It was literally I was like I'm like, "Oh, there's Sarah. Oh, yeah, okay, sure," and then boom, gone, disappeared. I'm like, "How did she move that
But
fast?"
dude, I was on a mission. I couldn't tell you what mission that day, but I was on a mission.
I literally we finally did our, like, recap for the national, and I couldn't remember what day I did what because it was all such a blur. But you know what I
So
do
true.
remember? That we didn't get to do the case we're doing today because we were supposed to do it live on stage,
Yeah.
and, we reconsidered. So we're gonna do it today,
Hey,
and
you
this is
know
what
what?
we've been waiting for because this is your case. You have been waiting and waiting and
My
waiting.
heart.
The first time that I met you in real life
God.
the first time I met you in real life, we saw this athlete also in real life, and you hollered at him and chased him down in public, and I was like, "Okay, this is happening."
And you know what? It did not break our friendship.
It
If
did, it made
anything,
it
maybe it brought us
stronger.
closer.
It did, it did. You know what, Sarah? I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna give you your flowers right now. From the first time I met you at the first national, when you and E were just kind of sitting quietly, on that little bench, and you were just like, "Oh, I don't know what to do," to this national, when you were out there just like crushing it. I felt like you have blossomed into this like amazing, like just pioneer in this space, and I'm so proud of you because
I
you were
learned from the
so
best.
no, you were like this a little seedling sitting there, and you're just like, "Oh, I don't know anyone," to now this year, you're just like, psh, psh, psh,
I know.
party, party, invite. Everybody's talking about you. You were the coolest thing. So
No,
proud. I'm so proud of you.
so far from that, that's you.
Yes.
I think you're looking at the wrong mirror, sweetheart.
No, I'm proud of you. You're doing
I'm proud
wonderful.
of you because you've come so far too. Like I think both of our journeys went different ways, and I think but the root of it is that we've stayed friends, and like we both of our sides mingle so well together, and it's like we can almost answer questions for one another just because that's just how much we know each other. And I honestly would not be this flower that I am without you pushing me and also encouraging me and then telling me to do this because this has taken me out of my comfort zone. As much as I love crime, I don't like the way I sound, and I don't like looking at myself.
You're
So that's
gorgeous
like
and you
two
have a beautiful
things.
voice.
I
You're
need
crushing it. You're crushing. So let's talk about the crime that we're gonna discuss today.
Big boy.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw it right over to you and we're gonna get started.
Alrighty. Well, so this person shouldn't come as a surprise to many as I am a New York Giants fan. But when we started doing this podcast, I knew that this would be one I'd have to do. I've literally been waiting to talk about none other than Lawrence Julius Taylor, also known as LT.
LT.
LT. LT was born in Virginia in 1959. That seems so freaking old.
Dude, he's older than my dad.
1959. Like,
Oh,
dang. And is the eldest of three sons born to Clarence and Iris Taylor. I love the name Iris. I think that's
so
so cute.
pretty. I think I have an aunt, a great aunt named
It's
Iris.
such a beautiful flower.
It is.
LT's father was a dispatcher at the Newport News shipyard, and his mother was a school teacher. So he didn't come from a poor background. Definitely well-off family, and parents were workers. I mean, that's with some strong jobs, which was always a a hard thing sometimes with our podcast episodes. A lot of them come from very poor,
A
rough
lot of them, like,
neighborhoods.
they have just so much trauma in their background that,
Yeah,
sometimes you're like, it's like foreshadowing. So it's almost worse when you see someone who had a strong, happy
yeah, and
childhood
go
and
the
you're like,
wrong way.
how did this happen?
So next time I see him, I'm gonna call him this. He went by Looney. Oh, it is so on. It is so on, it's not even funny. Looney, as he was referred to by family, was a handful at a young age, but was also known to be singing in the choir at church, which was kind of interesting. If you think of him and what he's done, to see the soft side. I always like seeing the soft side of people because we're only talking about the bad side, usually.
Yeah.
Iris once said that Looney would never ask to do anything. He would just go and do it. But his siblings would always ask permission.
Oh, that's bad foreshadowing. Whoa.
Rebellious and mischievous were two words that would describe LT at a young age. But was this just the beginning of something even bigger? Was LT just misunderstood by everyone? LT's father once stated that LT loved hitting people at a young age. I mean, knocking people to the ground, not some play hitting.
None of this sounds good. This sounds he never asked permission and he liked to,
Like, knock
assault
people out?
people.
I
Jeez.
know. But what I found interesting was LT never took up football until he was in the 11th grade.
Wow, that is wild.
First, yeah, for where he went, I mean, that's crazy. Well, he went two different ways, I guess. Before that, he played baseball as a catcher, but picked up football at the age of 15 and never looked back.
My case is about a catcher.
And I know a little bit about that one. Since he didn't start playing football until later in his schooling, LT wasn't heavily recruited coming out of high school, obviously. I mean, that's just kind of a known, I feel like a known thing.
Yeah.
Having completed high school, though, LT was off to attend the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where he was named team captain. Being recruited by UNC was huge for LT, and he was ready to prove himself to everyone who passed him up. LT was recruited to play defensive lineman but before the 1979 season, he switched it up and played linebacker. LT would go on to play 3 seasons at UNC, and everybody there would watch him play in awe. LT was reckless, just reckless. His coach would describe him as.
Let's go, reckless.
Then I saw that and I was like, oh, I have to say that. It ties us together again. Okay.
Always.
After playing his 3rd season at UNC, LT would enter the 1981 draft. I wasn't even born yet.
I wasn't either for one time when you say that where I'm like, I also was not born. I was
okay.
-3 years old.
-7.
Okay.
Anyways, would be picked 2nd overall. He was picked 2nd overall
Yeah.
in that draft by none other than the New York Giants. At the time of his selection, there was tons of controversy due to the contract demands that LT wanted. But both sides quickly resolved the issues. I found it interesting that before the 1981 draft, there was a poll sent out to all the GMs of the teams, and 28 responded. Of those 28 responses, 26 of the GMs said they would take LT if given the opportunity.
Wow.
But there was two that would not. One of those GMs, being the GM of the Saints, said he wouldn't take LT. Well, the first pick in the 1981 draft was none other than the Saints. So in my eyes, my Giants got a little lucky with LT.
Yeah, because they didn't want him. I wonder why. I wonder if it was just because of his personality, because you hear that a lot, that some of these young. It reminds
Wasn't a
me of.
fit.
Do you know? We just watched Jerry Maguire last night. Jeremy had never seen Jerry Maguire, so we
Are
watched
you
it.
serious?
On God, he's never seen it.
Hmm.
So he never seen A Few Good Men either. He's not a very big. He doesn't really like Tom Cruise. So,
I don't
but
either.
yeah, I again, I agree. He's kind of a weirdo, but some of his movies were pretty good. And Jerry Maguire was like, "You had me at hello." Come on. It's a classic. So we watched it last night, and Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, when I was younger, I like found him to be like enigmatic and like fun, and I like that character was like awesome. And as an adult watching it, he was just like insufferable. I was like,
Mm,
shut up and do your job so you can get your contract. What is your problem?
I know, right? It's so true. And I think as we do more of these podcasts, you kind of like start losing less sympathy for those like other people that are coming up into the sports that are just like complaining about left and right and whatever. And it's like you literally come from like $1 million families. Like you are fine. Like you're
Yeah.
gonna be fine. You will find a team. You'll be fine. Fine. But on draft day though, LT wasn't overly excited to join the Giants, which was interesting, but instead was hesitant. With the draft being held in New York City that year, LT didn't want to show the emotion or excitement that those in attendance was hoping to see. The thing is, LT was hoping to be drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. I
Ew.
wonder if E knows this.
Gross.
Yeah, so the reasoning being behind wanting to be on the Cowboys team was merely because LT was not impressed with the Giants stadium.
Oh
He
my
would
God,
later change
so
his tone.
superficial.
It's such a stupid thing. Well, and the thing is it's MetLife, so it's the Jets in the Giants stadium. So just blame it on the Jets. Like, don't rude. But he would later change his tone and soon would show excitement for being with the best team, the New York Giants. Have to make sure I say that. And E
Mhm.
can hear me.
This is 81, so just like 4 short years later, my Bears won the Super Bowl.
Hey now. Shh. We don't talk about that. Was that the last time we got one?
It was the last time that they won one, not the last time they
Oh,
played in one.
at least you've been there since then,
Oh
unlike
05,
E.
we lost to the Colts. Fucking
Unlike E. Um, Taylor's talent was evident from the start of training camp. Taylor's new teammates would joke calling LT Superman and even made comments about turning his locker into a phone booth. Soon, everyone knew exactly who LT was and what he brought to the table. Quarterbacks like Terry Bradshaw, good old Terry Bradshaw,
I was
was
just talking about Terry Bradshaw the other day because I watched Failure to Launch. I watch a lot of like movies, and he's in that movie, and he shows his butt.
I like the fact that he has a donut haircut. Well, I don't know if it's a haircut. I think it's a receding hairline that's really bad.
Mal-pattern baldness is what it's called.
Donut haircut.
Donut haircut.
But Terry Bradshaw was shocked and confused as to how LT was continuously sacking him from his blind side. But LT didn't like everyone, especially defensive coordinator Bill Parcells.
Ooh, Billy. Billy
LT,
boy.
I don't know who likes Bill Parcells. Let's get real. LT would tell Parcells to basically F off and get rid of him if he wouldn't F off. Like, literally, that's what he would tell him. And Parcells would go on to become the head coach and had great respect for LT and never effed off, is what Parcells said, obviously.
Yeah.
Having now started for the Giants and was part of the starting lineup, LT's cocky side might have started to creep up on him. In contrast to his on-field success, Taylor was already developing a reputation for recklessness off the field. After nearly getting killed during the season when his speeding resulted in a car crash, Young told the team's trainer he was surprised if the linebacker lived past the age of 30. And the Giants insured Taylor's life for $2 million.
Holy.
Not only was he caught speeding and crashing cars, LT started dipping into drugs and women harder at times than his sacks on quarterbacks.
My goodness.
Uh-huh. LT would pass drug test after drug test because he would obtain his teammates' urine to submit it as his own. His wife Linda would get calls to pick up LT from crack houses, where he was known to spend thousands a day on both coke and women.
Oh my God. And his wife would just be like, okay, honey, I'm coming.
Oh, I'm on my way.
Crack whorehouse.
OMW.
Jeez.
He even showed up to a team meeting with handcuffs still stuck on him from the night before. The man was in fact a beast and wild, but how was all of this affecting his ability to perform at a professional level? LT was known for multiple Defensive Players of the Year awards and was turning around a sinking organization, all while under the influence. Were the drugs giving him an edge on his players? Was he becoming the Hulk in some sense because he was high on drugs? He was also a great and strong player in any sport he played, even before drugs. The Giants had an organization that was a mess. In the constant ups and downs caused tons of strikes and holdouts. And players weren't happy, but more importantly, LT wasn't happy. I don't know when he was happy. Let's get real.
He just sounds like an angry person.
And it sounds like it came from like a young age.
I
For no
know.
reason.
So full disclosure, when I was reading about this case, I know that you love this guy. He's so unlikable. He's so unlikable.
I like him on a sports base.
Yeah.
His ability to perform on the field.
Yeah.
And that's where I like him.
Yeah.
His personal life and what he does offside the field, I don't have any respect for.
Yeah. I have athletes like that.
It sucks because I think he's a great player and he brought a lot to the organization. But
imagine if he was sober and if he was this good. He was really good before he did drugs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if he was that good on drugs, could you imagine him in peak form, healthy, not abusing?
Crazy.
He probably would have been just even better.
I know. Or he wouldn't be numb enough to take the hits too. So who knows?
I don't know.
Maybe he wouldn't be.
I don't know. That's crazy. It's crazy to me. All right, let's keep going.
In 1987, he finally tested positive for cocaine and admitted to using it. The next year, in 1988, he failed a second drug test, whereupon the NFL suspended him for 30 days. But still, LT wasn't happy at this point. And his personal happiness or professional one. LT before the 1990 season demanded a new contract with a salary of $2 million per year. Neither side would budge. And since LT was missing preseason games and training camps, he was being fined $2,500 a day. But it only lasted 5 days. But before the season opener, but both parties did finally agree to $5 million for 3 years, and LT would be marked as the highest paid defensive player. After receiving that new contract, something must have sparked within LT, because he would help lead the Giants to the Super Bowl and, more importantly, a championship. The highs in football for LT would soon be short-lived, but the highs in life continued to brew. See what I did there?
Yes.
The 1991 season was hard for LT as he didn't make the Pro Bowl team, and his coach he hated in the beginning had retired prior to the season. LT seemed to have lost himself. He's also seemed to be lost on the field. That would roll into the 1992 season, where he would be sidelined for the remainder of the season due to an Achilles injury.
I actually remember that. I was in 2nd grade, and I remember my dad talking about it.
I was 4.
Yeah, I know.
But you know what's really interesting is in the 12 seasons he played for the Giants, he had only ever missed 4 days due to injury. So this was a huge setback for LT and could be one reason for his soon decline. When the 1993 season rolled around, LT was given another opportunity to end his career on a better note and not injured. After almost making another run to the Super Bowl, the Giants were defeated in the second round by the 49ers, and at this moment, LT decided to retire. LT would later state that I saw blow as the only bright spot in my future.
That's
And
depressing.
wrong blow,
Right,
buddy.
this guy has like
I
he had
think
a good
he's
family, he had a great career, he won a Super Bowl, and he's still miserable. Like, this is where I think so much is, like, mental health problems and, like, I hate to sound like that person, but, like, the whole toxic masculinity where you can never, like, say that you're unhappy, but, like, if you're unhappy, it has to be angry. It can't be like,
right,
"I'm sad," or "I'm
right.
depressed," or "I'm hurting." It's, "I'm mad, I'm mad."
Yep,
And it sounds like this was his problem. Like nobody has he has everything going for him and he's still not happy, then to me there has to be an underlying issue, right?
correct. It's a personal issue at that point. I agree, 100%. And you know what's really, really crazy? Because I think nowadays, you hear about players getting bounced around from team to team to team. LT spent his whole time at the New York Giants, never played for any other team. And that's pretty crazy. I don't know if that's really going to happen nowadays. Um maybe it could, but I just feel like they move so much.
Yeah,
But after he had retired, so that was his last year. In 1993, he would not suit up after that season, and
right.
he would end with the New York Giants. But after retiring from the game that he grew to love, LT spiraled big time in drugs and criminal charges. In 1995, LT went to rehab twice. He would be caught twice in the following 3 years for selling to undercover police officers coke.
How do you even do that? Like, how? You're
Uh,
LT. Like, why are you selling drugs?
because he
What?
needs money. He needed monies.
Was he burned through that $5 million?
Oh, you know.
My goodness.
So LT started hanging with well known drug users, and eventually his home would start to look like its own crack house, having sheets over the windows.
My goodness.
Drugs weren't his only flaws, but getting in trouble with the law for other offenses started to pile up. In 1997, LT pleaded guilty to filing a false tax return in 1990, and in 2000, he was sentenced to 3 months of house arrest, 5 years of probation, and 500 hours of community service for tax evasion. LT would go on to star in movies and video games after retiring from the NFL, like Grand Theft Auto, Vice City as BJ Smith, Blitz, The League, Any Given Sunday, The Sopranos, Waterboy, 2000 versions of Shaft, Mercy Streets, and In Hell.
Yep.
I feel like he fit the last one.
My kids know him from being an actor more than football.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy for me because to me he's a football player, and to
Correct.
them they're like they know him from the movies.
So some of these, like, I had to like go and look at them again because it's like I've seen some of these, and you just like wait, and when you go back and you look at it, it's like, oh, okay, it's
There's LT.
but the Grand Theft Auto Vice City, I had absolutely no clue that that was him, and
I
I thought
love
that was
Vice
pretty
City. That was
cool.
one of my favorite movies
What?
or games. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I played Grand Theft, but it was just like I never realized that that was his voice, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
I
In
didn't
nine
know that either. So
in in 1999, LT was indicted or yeah, inducted into the Hall of Fame with his then ex-wife because they don't really talk about his personal life because they focus so much on his drugs and who he is and what he's done. Um, but I'm guessing she probably just finally gave up.
I mean, how do you have to pick your husband up from like prostitutes and drug houses and then like be chill with that? Like at some point, and he burned through all your money. Like, there's no money. He's aggressive. He's angry. He's unhappy. He's like consistently cheating on you, and he's a drug addict. At some point, you have to be
You're
like,
gonna break.
I can't deal with it. I can't do this. You know.
Did you know that he had 3 kids?
I did not.
I didn't either. So his 3 kids were there as well as his parents when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Some questioned if his lavish partying lifestyle would hinder his ability to get in, but obviously it didn't. LT made sure to keep himself busy after retiring, having joined TV shows after being in movies and on video games. But he was still living a lie to those around him. In November of 2009, in Florida, so that's where he lives right now too, LT was arrested for leaving the scene of an accident after striking another vehicle with his Escalade. He was released on a, this is ridiculous, $500 bond, and the other driver later sued him seeking $15,000.
That's not very much considering it was like a hit and run.
Right.
It sounds like
And
medical and damage to the car.
yeah. And I'm just like, that was in 2009. That's not that long ago. That was 14 years ago. And
I can't
that
believe
to me
09
seems like a
is
slap
14
on the
years ago.
wrist.
09
Yeah.
was last year. Sorry. 1990 was 14 years ago. 09 was no, in my brain. I'm saying in my brain. Like,
Okay, girl.
there's
I'm
no
like
way
sitting
that
here, I'm like looking at
2009
my
was
notes and I'm
14
like,
years ago. Oh my God. That just blew my mind. That was more upsetting than all of this. Do you know who LT parallels, in my opinion? You know
who?
who I'm gonna say, right? Daryl Strawberry.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And there's other people. I just wonder why I will get to that at the end, but because I'll lose my track of
Okay, I'm not
thoughts.
gonna. I'll stop this.
No, you're fine. But the thing is that his crimes didn't get any better; they only got worse. In May of 2010, so
13 years ago.
like yeah, but like what 6 months after the hit and run in November,
Yeah.
LT was arrested for SAing
Oh,
a
no.
16-year-old girl at
Oh,
a Holiday Inn in New York.
no.
LT was charged with felony third-degree statutory rape for engaging in sexual intercourse with a minor.
She's 16. He was born in 1959.
This
He's
is
like,
2010.
so he's like 49.
Mm-hmm.
Gross.
He's 50, almost 51.
I'm gonna have to do the math on my calculator because I'm tired and it's late.
I think
He was
59, 50, almost
You
51.
said it's 2010, right?
Yeah. He was almost 51.
Yeah, 51. Shit.
Yeah.
That's so gross, dude. That's
But
so gross.
So this is where it gets kind of interesting, okay? LT was also charged with felony third-degree patronizing for allegedly paying the underage girl $300 to have sex with him. But this is where I just, the girl was working the streets. The girl told investigators that her pimp commanded her to tell LT that she was 19, which is exactly what LT told the investigators. The girl's
He
pimp,
didn't know that she was underage, basically.
correct.
He
And so
still was. It's so. Here's the thing. She's clearly like this is when we talk about sex trafficking. This is sex trafficking.
Yep.
Using a minor.
Yep.
I don't care. Like,
it's interesting you say that because her pimp, Rasheed Davis, would later be charged with federal child sex trafficking because, of not just this, but all the other ones.
she wasn't old enough to consent to telling someone that she was 19. She wasn't old enough to consent to be a sex worker at 16. She's a child.
Mm-hmm.
So I hate the word pimp. He's a fucking predator.
I know.
He's a predator.
Yep.
He was abusing this child. LT he didn't there's no justification. He paid a sex worker to do a sex act, which is, in my opinion, if we regulated sex work and had it legalized where we could, where people we villainize sex workers when it's something that people are using.
Sometimes they're kidnapped and forced into it, and it's not something that they've decided to do. And I'm not saying that he's the victim at all.
No, he's absolutely
It was just really, really interesting to hear the truth. hear more facts about it.
It's
You know,
really
because
insidious in that people think that like the kidnapping thing happens a lot, but it's slower and scarier, and these young people run away and they have literally
yep,
nowhere to go. They get addicted to drugs. These
yep,
men who do this, they get them addicted to drugs so they can't leave, and
because they become dependent.
they do, and and then you have people like, you know, Lawrence Taylor come in and like, oh, she's a hot young thing. He's 51. Why do you even want to have sex with a 19-year-old? It's still disgusting.
Correct.
Like legal, but still disgusting.
That's 32 years.
Yeah, he's old enough to be her dad.
Yeah, but I agree. I agree 100% with you. I'm just like, I think that it's just, and for me, like from a criminal mindset and just like knowing why people do things, like a psychological type of, it's interesting hearing everything that's involved, all the pieces involved in the puzzle, as opposed to like, because everybody knows him as doing this. And so it's just interesting to know, like, oh,
He probably
okay,
should have gotten in trouble for solicitation for sure, because it wasn't legal where he was doing it.
correct,
Had he known she was 16, maybe he wouldn't have done it, and then he wouldn't have gotten charged with, rape, because
right,
that's what it is when you have sex with a 16-year-old.
correct, and you pay for that. So so it was like almost a year later, he pled guilty to the charges and was sentenced to 6 years probation as part of the plea agreement, and he pled guilty to a misdemeanor of sexual misconduct in patronizing a prostitute. So LT then, not now, he still has to register as a low risk level 1 sex offender. So that's
I hope
on
that
him.
girl is okay.
You know,
I hope whatever happened, I hope she like, because I'm
got
sure
the help
there's
that
like
she
a lot of
needed.
notoriety with like being involved in a case like this. And like if the man who was like trafficking her got arrested, I hope that she got away, and I hope she's okay somewhere. I hope wherever she is, she's all right.
I agree. I hope that as a victim and trying to get out of a situation like that, like I agree with you 110%. Before I started doing this case, it's like, yes, I love LT as a person who plays on the field. I
Yeah.
don't like what he does outside the field. I don't like what he's been charged with. I don't condone it. I don't support it. And
Mhm.
but
It's
as
hard
a
when you take a
player,
deep dive
he was
into
good.
in the people you idolize,
It sucks when you learn
it
things
ruins
about them.
them for you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So the girl in the case would try to claim that actually LT assaulted her after the plea agreement, and so she tried to go after him on that level as well. But the court rejected the victim's claim, stating that it was frivolous. It wasn't a true statement, and that LT kept his distance after that because you're already in trouble once, buddy.
Oh, so she tried to say that he was harassing her after the fact,
Correct,
and they had no proof of that.
correct.
She
So
probably, in fairness, didn't know who he was when it happened, and then when she found out,
try to get money,
yeah. Well,
which
maybe she no, she probably deserved it, I'm not gonna lie.
from I think though, see, I didn't dig. You can't really dig into a victim,
Yeah,
because first off, I don't want to be putting names out there because they're victims,
yeah,
and I know you probably feel the same way. But it was just kind of one of those things where I would love to interview her, even if it was ever like a situation where we don't discuss names or we, altered her voice or whatever, because it's very interesting when you learn it from their side, because
yeah.
here we are, we can paint a picture of the other side, but it'd be really interesting to ever, get that opportunity. And um it sucks because I wish you could know that,
Yeah.
because you could really put more emotion into this, and it sucks because it just should never have happened. Bottom
And,
line.
here's the thing with the way that he behaves and him being reckless and him kind of always wanting what he wants. Who's to say that maybe like he didn't do something stupid afterwards? You don't know. I don't know.
Right.
It's
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 really
hard
him
to
and her.
say.
It's between him and her, but
Yep.
regardless, that girl went through some things, and I sincerely hope she's all right now.
So actually, what's really interesting, LT had remarried during all of this,
Oh my God.
and has since been living in Pembroke Pines, Florida, with his now wife. On June 9th, 2016, LT's wife was arrested for domestic violence in Florida after she threw an unknown object and struck Taylor in the back of the head.
Oh, she whooped his ass, huh?
Apparently somebody could stand up to him. Through
My
all of this, LT has still sports-wise left a legacy on the NFL. Taylor is considered one of the best players to ever play in the NFL for his position and has been ranked as the top defensive player in the league's history by some news outlets, media members, former players, and coaches. He has also been described as one of the most feared and intimidating players in NFL history. Taylor's explosive speed and power is credited with changing the position of outside linebacker from a read and react type of position to more attacking aggressive position. And I think that's the LT that I enjoy. Like I said, it's more of a sports one. And honestly, like if the victim in this case is ever sees this podcast, like you know that we have your support as well, because just because he did this and I like him as a player on the field does not mean, like I said, I condone what he has done. This should never be a reason. You shouldn't use your celebrity status to get what you want, and or professional football player status. So, I mean, on that note, I just kind of like it sucks. Like you said, it sucks to kind of really learn who somebody is that you like.
Yeah,
Um,
it
and
happens
it's
all the time.
and people always say like, "Oh, you like the guy that did this to a woman and blah blah blah," and it's like that's not the case. I like him as a player. I like him on the field. I don't like him like that. So please don't ever put those two together because that's not the case.
Yeah, no, I fully understand where you're coming from. I got to meet someone that I really like as an athlete recently, and like some of the things that he says and does, I absolutely don't agree with. But I grew up being a huge fan of his, and it was like, it's hard. It's hard to, and
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of these athletes get away with stuff because people look at them like they were their hero, and then they don't want to believe that they're capable of doing these kinds of horrendous, heinous things, and then but they do it, you know? So it is that it's a really good, I think that's a good point to make, and it's a good, like when we started this podcast, um for me it's like these are celebrities, these are people, like you see these people doing these horrible things, and then like nothing happens.
Right.
I just
Henry
posted that.
Ruggs.
Yeah, I just posted, actually I was going to bring that up. I just posted about Henry Ruggs on our Instagram page because he got 3 to 10 years for, like, he killed somebody with his reckless behavior. And OJ Simpson came out and made a video.
I know.
Who is this man to have an opinion about this? You, like, the constant need to put himself in the public eye and remind everyone about what happened to Nicole Brown is pretty disgusting, in my
Let's
opinion.
call him the kettle black, if I could say it.
And
I mean,
it's if you have any respect for this, the mother of your children, like, another human being that was murdered, like, it's like he thinks it's a joke, he thinks it's cute, it's funny, he gets attention from it,
yep, it's attention.
and it's exhausting to me sometimes, and the fact that these people get away with things, these athletes get away with things just because people look at them and they're like, I love this person for what they're capable of doing on the field, or in a stadium or on the ice, and then they overlook the fact that they are humans and they do terrible things.
I think if you're able to know both sides of it and know that's I mean that's kind of like my Jailblazers. I mean it's the same situation. There's it's a team that I grew up. Well, I didn't grow up watching them like that group, um, but about them.
Yeah,
Their foundation was what set us up for the championship. I mean, it's like it sucks if you want to look at it that way, but at the same time, if you look at it as a statistical athletics type of side of it, these players are like amazing players,
yeah,
and they're not amazing people, but they're amazing players.
yeah. That is true. I don't know. Well, I personally hope that, his ex-wife is doing okay. I hope
Mhm.
that that young woman who's like, well, I mean, this was 20 years ago. I hope, this woman now has
Yeah.
gotten whatever help she needs and that her life is in a better place now, and
Agree.
she's been able to move forward from what happened to her. This was a rough one because I know that you are a fan, and it's hard to take a critical look at someone that you enjoyed watching play the sport. I think that's why I like to do some of the old cases, because like it's not breaking my heart to hear about these old cases of these people that like did
Right.
not affect me as a I have to like dive into like someone that I actually like, a team. I've been lucky. Most of the teams that I like, I don't think I have anyone who's done anything too bad.
And I think it's really weird is I think there's enough they all could be bad. All of the people that we like could be bad. They just have never been caught.
Yeah,
And there's nothing on them. There's no dirt on them at this point. But I feel like just the way that society's kind of pushing all of us to like be more self-aware,
yeah,
and to speak up, I think more and more is coming out than there was back then. And so even if we do like somebody from back then, I mean, you never know. There could have been something that had happened at some point that never got brought up. So
yeah.
it's
I
hard.
mean, who knows what happened with the Bulls? That was a wild time for them.
Oh
I've
yeah.
heard some stories. So
I was gonna say that definitely I can see that.
yeah. Well, thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you. And if you liked this content, please make sure that you subscribe, you follow, leave a review,
Yes,
share it.
please.
Make sure you definitely want to subscribe so you know when we're dropping some new episodes. We got, I think I'm going to drop this one right away because we talked a little bit about the national, and I'm hoping to get we have a big case that we recorded while we were at the national, and I'm hoping we can get that one. Sarah and I recorded together in person, sitting side by side. That was very exciting.
That was the best one. It was
Yeah,
fun.
it was fun. So I think I'm gonna just I'm gonna record this. I'll drop it like this week. So
Sounds good.
until next time, guys, stay safe, make good choices. Bye.
Please.
That was really good.
Hello Kitty, me gusta tu titties, me